I'm here with Chris McClure, well-known artist, Canadian artist. He's had galleries in Canada and Cabos, San Lucas, Mexico.
Correct.
How many years were you in Mexico?
We spent 14 years in Mexico with a gallery, a studio working gallery.
Yeah. And you started here in Canada. Is it in White Rock or?
Part of it was in White Rock, but the actual seed of the idea came when I was in Cabo San Lucas.
Ah.
And we were sitting around one day talking about all the different days that people had in honor of themselves, and they said, there's not one day with artists there. And I thought it would be a wonderful idea for artists to have their own special day around the world, and especially for all the contributions they've given and all the help they've done. And that's sort of how it started, and we built it from there.
Yeah. I feel very fortunate. I'm a new partner in IAD. You brought me in earlier this year, and we've been working together to increase the visibility of it locally and around the world. And when we first met, you told me a great story about Marine Drive when you opened a studio back in the day. I think it was maybe even as early as the 70s. That was quite an innovative thing for White Rock to, what you did there. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, basically we ran it as a working studio, and we actually kept the doors locked all the time, and people would be peeking through the windows, and every once in a while we'd put on a show, and we'd open the doors and the whole place would fill up, and we'd pay the rent for another month, and then we'd close the door again and paint, and we did a lot of teaching at the same time.
Okay.
But there was 6 artists involved in this, and all of them went on to bigger and better careers, and it's sort of, you cut your teeth in different ways at different times and different places.
Yeah. Did you end up in White Rock? Why here? Is this tend to be an arts and culture center for West Coast?
Well, actually, I'm originally from the East Coast.
Ah.
And I drove out here one day to deliver some prints to a little gallery that was selling my limited edition prints for me, and I drove down Marine Drive and I went, wow, this is like New Brunswick.
Yeah.
So about 3 months later I moved out here.
And where are you from originally?
I'm out of Moncton, St. John area of New Brunswick.
Oh, beautiful.
Eastern Canada.
Yeah, beautiful part of the world. And so you ended up on the West Coast, and you've stayed here.
They said go west, so I went west.
Yeah. And then you went south.
Then I went south. I didn't go west any farther.
Then you came back west.
And I came back west.
Yeah, good stuff. Chris, I'm curious. How does art and culture affect society? Why is it so important for people to have art around them and be immersed and exposed to art?
Well, I think the basic premise of culture is art itself. Everything that we use in culture, everything we see, everything that's man-made, at least, is all to do with design and some creative person behind the systems, and it wouldn't matter what it is. And but we do other things for pleasure, and we paint and we dance and we do all sorts of things. But at the same time, we're educating people, we're raising the spirits, we're doing it for different reasons. Some artists do things political, some do it for refinement, some do it for other reasons. But the basic premise of the culture is basically it is art. All of it is art, basically.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. There's a sense of creativity and even design of cars or
everything,
or design of a toaster in a home. It came from an artist's inspiration and an artist's vision of what it should look like.
Right.
Yeah. I find the art community interesting too, because there are even more amateur artists than there are professionals who are paid every day. People love art so much, they do it for pleasure. They have their regular 9 to 5 or whatever, 7 to 3 jobs, and they come home and they work in the art world, or they have fun.
Well, that's a basic new phenomenon in the last 50 years.
15 or 50?
Around about 50 years ago it
50
started,
years,
yeah.
okay.
But really, it really took off in about the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Where we have so much leisure time and people are so busy in all their other type of work-a-day worlds that, that is, to them it's not mundane, but it's different. And then they want to get into something that's more personal. And
right.
so a lot of people have taken classes, and there's so much being offered everybody, whether it be dance or painting or whatever. But basically, it's just a release for them in many ways. But Basically, what we're talking about in terms of artists are full-time artists more than anything
Full-time,
else. Yeah,
exactly.
we're talking
Yeah.
professional artists and fine artists, and I don't like using the words amateurs or hobby artists because we were all creative, but there's a major difference between the level of fine art and the level of just
Of
art
course.
as expression itself.
Yeah, of course. Where were you living when you thought of developing the IAD?
I was living in Cabo St. Lucas and White Rock at the
Oh,
same time.
okay.
I would spend about 9 months of the year in Cabo and then come back up here for about 3 months in the summer
I see.
when it got way too hot down there.
Yeah, summertime.
Yeah.
So how did the idea come about? What were you sitting around in Cabos one day, sitting on the beach, and just wondering how you could improve the lot in life for artists?
Well, one of the things that people, they hear about artists, and over the years they know all the famous names, but they don't know who the artist is next door necessarily. They don't know them as people. They know them they paint a little bit, or they dance, or they do this, but they're not sure who they are. So part of my idea of starting International Artist Day was to actually get to know who the artists are as a person,
Right.
not just what they do. It's more of the artists themselves and what makes them tick.
Okay, so the focus here is it's not necessarily on the art. The focus is on the artist.
Correct.
And the creative process, the pressures that they're under, the challenges that artists have, keeping up with technology, using new distribution processes, reaching out to people. Has that changed much in the last, say, 20 years?
It's changed drastically in the last 20 years. There's so many different types of products you can buy now, and different ways you can express yourself, and different materials, and different ways of even exhibiting your work, or where you're performing. Or the rules change about every 10 years, and everybody has to redefine themselves.
Right.
And part of the creativity is that redefinition as you go along. And you only discover that when you've been in the business for 40 or 50 years, and you see the major changes as you go along, and hopefully within your own expression as well.
How much pressure does that put on a full-time artist who's depending on generating regular revenue? How hard is it to keep up?
Well, we like to pretend that it's very difficult, but most professional artists will tell you it's fun.
It's fun. Okay. Yeah.
They don't look at it like pressure, because sometimes that's the fuel that you need to be creative.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if it gets a little too tight in one area, then you have to expand and discover something else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. You just move with it. What did you think when art organizations and artists began to recognize the IAD and to promote it in events in cities around the world under the International Artist Day banner? What went through your mind when you first started seeing that happening?
Well, I remember the first time I was in Cabo, and I was sitting at the computer, and I called my wife over right away, because there was a lovely gal named Dennis that actually was from Sri Lanka, and she was a clothing designer and a fashion designer. And she put on a show in Kathmandu, Nepal, in honor of International Artist Day, and she posted it on the web. And it was the first one I physically saw on the web, and I went, wow, this is fabulous, And it just sort of took off after that. And every day I'd go over and sort of type in things and look, or see who's saying what or where, and it might have been just an artist that lived in maybe Chicago at the time, and
Right.
they would put it on some expression on their website about it, and have you heard about International Artist Day, or are you celebrating it? And every little trickle that came in, we were absolutely thrilled over it.
Yeah. And how long ago did that happen?
That was 11 years ago.
11 years. So in
2004.
And four, okay.
And it's like a trumpet, if you can really imagine that long, thin trumpet as sort of information starts to go along, and then it starts to come out at the end of that trumpet.
Right.
And then it just sort of explodes at some point and becomes sort of pop culture at some point, and that's what's happened with it.
So what's the most recent thing you've seen online that you were happy about? Who around the world is doing something that you saw and you thought that's fabulous? And
Well, one of the thrills for me was the island of Puerto Rico celebrated International Artist Day with all their arts organizations. And it was the first year that they decided to do it, and And as you know, Maurice, you've been in contact with them on the email and that.
Yeah.
And they're going to do some things with you. And I just got some more information out of India that they've done some really nice things again in India.
Yes, yeah, we're excited about that.
And one of the things that I really like, which it sounds maybe simple to some people, but as artists, I was absolutely thrilled when I saw the Metropolitan Met in New York put it on their website to honor International Artist Day. I mean, how big can you get?
You've arrived. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, that's. And there was a doll actually that was made out of Japan, and her name was Spot, Splatter, and Splash, and she was a painter, and her birthday was International Artist Day, October 25th. So that was exciting.
Yeah. October 25th. Who else was? What other infamous, famous?
Probably many, but the number one is Picasso.
Picasso, of course.
The quintessential artist.
Contemporary artist that's changed how we look at art.
Pretty much.
How we appreciate it, yeah. And did you decide that that was a good day, October 25th, because of...
well, we're not honoring him as such. We're honoring all artists, but him being probably the quintessential and the modern artist, and we thought, why not just tag it to his birthday?
It's a great idea.
As an honor as well. But,
yes, yeah. I want to get a little serious for a moment. You know, many cities around the world have cut cultural budgets, and you know, there's far less money now to promote art and culture. Does the IAD fill a gap in some respect for the funding that's being lost? It makes it harder for artists to promote themselves. Where do you feel that the IAD picks it up where some of the funding cuts have occurred over the last 10 or 15 years?
Yeah, a lot of those avenues where the money's been sort of transferred or used for other reasons except for the arts and cultures is that it has left a lot of vacancies. And we've noticed over a few things that we've done with International Artist Day that the cities seem to respond to it quite quickly. And they come out with some kind of funding for it, whether it's through grants or lease of spaces that they're willing to put in for different things. It's like everything, you have to go after it and you have to, you know, talk to them about it, and they have to see the value of it. And most cities today, which believe it or not, is that they think arts and cultures are a real economic generator for the cities. And as an artist, it can be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
If
quite
it's done
there,
right.
but it can be if it's done right, exactly. And it has to be powerful enough that people are interested in it, and that they will come and participate.
Can you think off the top of your head any cities that really handle it well and they continue to do that?
Well, the first one comes to mind is Calgary, Alberta, where they put out a call to artists for a big sculpture thing to honor International Artist Day for the city itself, which a lot of people are doing things that I hear about, but I'm not totally familiar with all the aspects of it. And there's so many cities around the world that are celebrating in different ways. And Sitges in Spain put out a big celebration on their sort of master artist that lived back about 50, 100 years ago or something. And the whole town celebrated this one artist. And it's these type of events that I hear like back through the grapevine about. I'm not always in contact with everybody, but there's thousands of things starting to happen around the world.
Right.
And I'm just becoming aware of some of the things that happen, and when they decide to email me or if I catch them online somewhere or whatever. But this is really only taken off because of the internet and because the idea is a good idea.
Yes, it is.
It's a powerful idea, and it's a necessary idea for people to start to really understand who artists are.
Yeah.
Not just the local person that lives next door that paints a little bit, or you know, the local dance troupe, or,
right.
you know, or local theater. You know, this is a world thing that people have to get involved in, and they have to really understand that the whole basis of our culture is art.
It is. And how does the term fine art play into all of this?
Well, it's a big debate over the years with a lot of people onto what fine art is, but basically it's just the people that are doing it as a sense of trying to improve the world and improve themselves and just give something better to society, not just sort of self-expression.
I see, yeah.
Selfies take care of that.
Yeah, right.